Tim, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Oh,
I can.
you're you're a little quiet yourself.
Hi, is that better? Is that better?
You're a little quiet yourself. Not a lot.
Hmm. Well, I won't be having to speak.
Okay. Well, thank you for your help earlier, all of your help, but particularly earlier today with Tob, I learned something new about PowerPoint, so appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. And I've already checked and we are live streaming.
Great. Looks like we're recording as well already.
Correct.
Well, in that case, I'm just going to mute and turn off my video and just sit tight.
Job, I can see the packet and it's also coming across on the live stream. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Mom. I miss you.
Good morning. I see the agenda already up. Can you all see and hear me okay?
Can see you fine. I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just figuring out how to maneuver this stuff.
Well, we can see and hear you fine, and Chair Humphrey, I can also see and hear you fine.
That's great, Charmaine. Thanks.
Okay, I lost it. Where did it go? Back here.
Well, Rita, even if you lost it, we can still see and hear you.
Okay, I'm like, okay, where did it go? There it is.
That makes me feel so much better, Rita.
I was trying to move it to a bigger screen and it went away. Oh, well. Oh, there we go. Now we're back. Can't see very good. There we go. Down.
Dave Rice joined the meeting.
Hey, Dave,
Morning.
good to see you.
You too.
Rita, do you have your head above water?
Just barely. I'm getting kind of back into the routine of things, but adjusting from a retirement mode into working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week again is challenging, especially this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are a few things that discussions that I've listened in on that are kind of like, well, didn't we talk about this and then it settled 7 years ago before I left?
How true is that, Rita?
It's like, now wait a minute, we already talked about this stuff. But that's okay.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I think the same thing. I reflect back to 2010 when I was at WATC, and I
Uh-huh.
thought, and I keep thinking, I think we were talking about that all the way back in 2010, and we're still talking about it.
We're still talking about it. Absolutely. But I will tell you, the staff has been absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
They know their jobs, they keep everything going smoothly, and I can't say enough about how helpful they've been at getting me reoriented while still doing their jobs that they do every day to keep everything running as smoothly as possible.
Yeah. No surprise. Good people.
Yes, they are. It's better.
Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi there.
Dr. Ruda, I'm glad you chose the ambient light. Makes you a little bit more palatable to look at, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything I can do for you there, Mimi?
Chair Humphrey, this is Susan Henry, and you do have a quorum to begin at 10 when you're ready. I did not receive any declinations. I do know that member Zimmer may only be able to jump on for the first 20 minutes or so of the meeting based on another emergency meeting he had to attend.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Just another minute or so and we'll start. Okay, well, it's 10 o'clock and I'd like to call the December 21st, 2023 Kansas Post-Secondary Technical Education Authority meeting to order. And good morning, everybody, and welcome. This TEA meeting is a regularly scheduled conference call meeting being held via Zoom. Please mute your microphones. TEA members, board staff, or institutional staff who have comments or questions should ask to be recognized. Everyone other than the recognized speaker should keep their microphones muted. Each time you're recognized to speak, please state your name, your title before you begin so that we can readily identify, you can be readily identified by the listeners as well as observers. For each action item, I will state a motion and ask if someone will make that motion. For each motion made, I will then ask for a second. For each motion made and seconded, I will ask Susan to call roll to determine how each TEA member is voting and to announce the results of the vote. We will not do a roll call for the approval of minutes, and we do not need a motion or a second or a vote to recess or adjournment unless a TEA member requests one. We will not have the opportunity for public comment during this meeting. We will not have an executive session during today's meeting. So moving on, I would like to ask if there are any changes or additions to the agenda. If not, I would like to move to the minutes of the previous TEA meetings are included in your packet. Are there any changes to those minutes? And if not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Mr. Chair, Curtis here. I would so move.
Thanks, Curtis. Can I get a second?
This is Cindy, second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any opposed? Okay, if not, I will call that motion carried. Next, moving on to introductions. I'd like to welcome Rita Johnson back to the TEA. Rita is the interim vice president for workforce development. She's taken over for Scott Smathers. As we all know, Scott has moved on to sorry, it just slipped my mind. It's too early for me, I guess.
Washburn Tech.
Washburn Tech. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, most of you might know that Rita was the past vice president of workforce development and also a member of the TEA. So welcome back, Rita. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any other introductions to be made? Okay, very good. Let's move on to the chairman's report. That'll be quick because I have none. So let's move on to member liaison reports. Are there any members who would like to share their activities? Okay. Moving on then, I would like to call on Interim Vice President Rita Johnson to provide us with a report on workforce development activities. Interim Vice President Johnson.
Thank you very much. I just have a few items to share. And again, I'd like to thank staff for kind of compiling these for me so that I can share them with you. The Excel and CTE fees should be ready for the TEA review in January. That collection was opened again to allow individual institutions to make updates. And because several have indicated that in a lot of instances, they are not charging any fees to high school students. We wanted to give them a chance to update that information before we presented it to you next month. We anticipate also that we will have what was previously known as the GAP report, now lovingly called the Institutional Calculated State Share Totals. That report we are hoping to have ready for us, the TEA, to review in January also. We wanted to remind institutions that follow-up collections open on January 2nd, and that's where institutions provide employment, placement, and industry recognized credential information to KBOR so that we can complete our reports for Perkins, KTIP, and so forth. The Perkins team has worked with NAEP and will be providing some free professional development to up to 60 participants in February 12th and 13th. The aim is to empower teachers to devise effective strategies, fostering positive change, influencing enrollment and retention in CTE programs. And the deadline to register for this training is on January the 8th. Business and industry surveys for the industrial machine mechanic and automation engineer technology programs were sent out on December 11th. And the last notice that I had is that we had already received some responses from business and industry. The staff is also working with KSDE and the colleges, working on aligning the secondary and the college programs in welding and construction. As for the Promise Act per law, we need to review program eligibility by the first week in February and notify colleges of programs that would no longer qualify. This is also the time for colleges to determine if they want to maintain the identified additional field of study or move to a different one. As far as the WIOA state plan, adult education team has been meeting with other core partners to draft the 4-year WIOA state plan. Survey has been sent out to stakeholders across the system, including adult ed practitioners, to collect input for this plan and they've already received 150 responses. I'm proud to announce that the adult education group have submitted all of their federal reports for the year, which is ahead of schedule, and we certainly appreciate their efforts in getting that information in. KBOR is working also with the Kansas City Digital Drive to provide adult education programs, funding for individuals in the adult education programs to assist learners and to determine whether they are eligible for the Affordable Connectivity Program, and if they are, to get them signed up. During the KBOR conducted 2 on-site monitoring visits in the fall of 2023, and they've already got 2 more scheduled for 2024. Let's see. There's federal training available for the Advanced Integrated Educational Training and Digital Resilience in American Workforce. This federal training, we have staff from colleges as well as KBOR that will be attending these training sessions, upcoming training sessions, and will be developing and implementing a statewide plan. So that's all I have to report at this time.
Thank you, Interim Vice President Johnson. Do we have any questions for Vice President Johnson? Okay, great. Let's move on. I'd like to recognize President Ryan Ruda from Garden City Community College to provide us with a community college report. President Ruda.
All right, thank you, Chair Humphrey, and good morning to everybody. As we typically have done with the community college report, we choose to coordinate and align our report specific to the Building the Future plan. This month, we're going to focus on the pillar of family that talks about affordability, access, and student success. So we have 5 community colleges that we will highlight this month. Starting with Cloud County Community College, in regards to affordability, access, and success, Cloud has realized the highest graduation plus transfer rate out of the 19 community college, as well as also being selected as a top 150 community college by the Aspen Institute. This particular recognition is one of the highest achievements that can be realized and is focused specifically on critical areas of access as well as addressing equity for students. Cloud has also increased their number of credentials earned by 5.4% over this past year as well. At Colby Community College, Colby has created the Colby Commitment Scholarship. And this particular scholarship program is one that provides high school students in the college's 14 county service area who qualify for free and reduced lunches, as well as all high school students in Thomas County, the ability to take dual credit classes, tuition, fee, and textbook free. This scholarship aims to really address the premise of removing educational barriers and providing students with equal opportunity and access to higher education. Colby Community College is also embarking on a 60 or 60 campaign, which is a scholarship initiative that looks to add 60 new endowed scholarships while celebrating the college's 60 years of operation this next year. In regards to success, Colby Community College focuses on student success, specifically on graduation rates. Colby Community College ranks #1 in the state for the cohort in graduation rates, as well as #1 in retention rates for the full-time cohort, and has had the second highest percentage of enrollment growth over the past 5 years at Colby Community College. At Garden City Community College, the college is implementing a new program called the Buster Finish Line. This program supports former students in order to help them reach completion of their degrees. This is a transformative program that provides up to 19 credit hours tuition free for the students who qualify. In order to qualify, students must have earned at least 48 credit hours, but have not completed their college degree, as well as also maintaining at least a 2.0 GPA, being in good academic standing. The college has embarked on this program and will start enrollment for this program in the spring semester. Additionally, Garden City Community College is embarking on an endowed scholarship initiative with the goal of creating 50 new endowed scholarships at the endowed level. This work will help to address access and affordability for students. In regards to student success, Garden City Community College ranks 5th in the state in graduation rate and has also realized a 37% increase in the number of degrees and certificates earned over the past 5 years, which ranks highest in the community college ranks of the number of credentials earned. Many of the allied health and technical programs have also seen high pass rates, as noticed by the CMA program with 100% pass rates, CNA with 97% pass rates, and Weldon with 100% pass rates over this past year. At Neosho County Community College, according to the latest National Community College Benchmark Project, Neosho's cost per credit hour ranks in the top 25% of the nation for affordable tuition. This is well below the National Community College median. Keeping tuition low and quality high is translating into better access for students who historically may not have been able to attend college. Currently, based on the National Community College Benchmarking Project, Neosho ranks in the top 13% nationally in attracting first-generation students and in the top 3% in college minority student population based on their service area demographics. Neosho students are also graduating and making good money, as recognized with over $4,000 more per year that Neosho graduates have than the Kansas state average for community college graduates. An important note, just to mention, Neosho has just completed their once a 10-year reaffirmation with the Higher Learning Commission and accreditation. And I'm proud to tell you that the college met all criteria and has no follow-up. So congratulations to Neosho on that. And then finally at Seward County Community College, Seward County has created the Saints Ahead Scholarship for high school students in their service area, which seeks to address improving access and affordability. This particular initiative is for students in Seward County. They will not pay tuition or fees for courses, and students in the service area outside of Seward County will pay $50 per course. Students are responsible for their textbooks, but this particular initiative has realized significant gains this past year for Seward County, where they had an enrollment of 761 students in their concurrent enrollment courses, which is an increase of over 45% year to year. Seward County has also created a Saints Anywhere online platform, which seeks to provide more opportunities for students in the online realm. Their online enrollment this past year has seen a 103% increase year to year as well. And finally, in regards to success, Seward County ranks #1 in the Kansas community college sector for full-time equivalency enrollment growth over this past year, as well as graduation ranks being 4th in the graduation realm. Seward County also ranks in the top 5 of Kansas community colleges where graduates are employed. So as you can see through these 5 different examples, there's great work and different initiatives that are being placed to move the bar and move the needle in addressing access, affordability, and student success. With that, this concludes the community college report. Just want to wish each of you a happy holidays and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Ruda. Happy holidays to you as well. Next, I'd like to recognize President Jim Jeanette from Manhattan Area Technical College to provide us with a technical college report. President Jeanette.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to hit a few highlights. I know you've got our written report. Brian mentioned the Aspen Institute top 150 of two-year colleges for excellence. There were 7 Kansas two-year colleges on their list. We had 2 community colleges, so we want to congratulate Cloud and Coffeyville. 5 of the 7 tech colleges made the Aspen list: Flint Hills Tech, Manhattan Tech, North Central Tech, Salina Tech, and Northwest Tech. So I'm pretty proud of that recognition. You'll notice on the report, both Flint Hills Tech College and Manhattan recently had special ceremonies with Michelin. We're part of the Michelin Tech Scholars process. This is pretty cool for the students. Flint Hills had 4 students pass the test. It's related to industrial engineering. We had 3 as the first time we participated in this. And Michelin was excited. They sent a pretty good team out to both of our institutions to do this. For the student, they've got to score high enough on a test. It's not a very easy test, but here's what the students get out of it. They're guaranteed a part-time job of 20 hours a week. Michelin pays all of their tuition costs to complete their program of study, but there's no requirement that the student has to stay working with Michelin. Michelin's convinced they'll convince them because of how they work with the student and what the student is doing on the job. And it's phenomenal. Our students will be part of the Junction City operation for Michelin, where they're making egg tracks, the egg tracks for the different things with farm equipment, industrial equipment. And they'll get a chance to use what they're learning in industrial engineering tech with us and even branch out. So that's a pretty cool program with a major global corporate partner that Kansas is involved in. Northwest Tech, they're expanding on diesel technology. It's going to add space for 15 to 20 more students. And they also had a Regional Department of Commerce award because of their business innovation, working with the industries in their area. Sherry, of course, always busy at Wichita Tech with her fine crew. They had a ribbon cutting recently for their Future Ready Center for Healthcare in a partnership with Wichita USD 259 and Wesley Hospital. They've got a new grant from Department of Energy to establish an industrial assessment center to work with industries on their energy efficiencies. Salina Tech will be launching a very unique program designed to help students who could go part-time to get into nursing with a part-time PN program. That's in addition to the college's full-time PN program. At North Central, they recorded a record number of scholarships going out to students this year. They had 79 students receiving over $107,000. Also, Fort Hays State's affiliation with North Central Northwest Tech is moving forward. They've got the coordinator in place to handle the final moves, I guess you'd say, with Higher Learning Commission on that affiliation. Again, we want to welcome Scott Smathers to the dark side. That's what I texted and said when I learned his new job. Welcome to the dark side, but we're excited to watch him have some fun with Washburn Tech. And then finally here at Manhattan Tech, 2 key things. I mentioned in the report that our students in construction technology just finished another home with Habitat for Humanity in the Ogden community. We've been part of that, working with K-State Architecture, Habitat for Humanity, many area contractors. And these are energy efficient homes. I think this was our 5th one over the last several years. But it really gives the students a chance to not just build the home, if you will, but really get into the energy efficiency, that these are basically a zero energy producing home in terms of what it's cost for energy. And then finally, Tuesday night, we got a signed contract with the city of Manhattan. They're committing $200,000 a year for the next 5 years towards our new building. So that's $1 million from the city of Manhattan. And we appreciate that recognition of the college and what we're trying to do for workforce. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Jeanette, from the dark side. That's good. So moving on to other matters, I'd like to call on Director Adam York to provide us with a legislative update. Director York.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. An interim legislative session has all but wrapped up with numerous special committees surfacing topics for the year ahead. And they will be making recommendations to the 2024 legislature to consider. One of those committees, the Legislative Post Audit Committee, also met this month. This is a bipartisan committee that oversees the Division of Post Audit, the legislature's Evaluation and Accountability Office. One of the topics under review was the gaps in fiscal note projections for legislation, as deviations can occur between the original projections for legislation when it's proposed and the actual cost of enacted legislation years later. So fiscal notes are scores or costs associated with legislation for estimated expenditures or a loss of revenue to the state. Now, one major reason that the committee received feedback for this discrepancy from the Division of Budget is that once a bill is amended in either chamber or afterwards in a conference committee, there really becomes no relationship between the original fiscal note and the newly amended bill. So certainly something to consider for the entire legislative process for the year ahead. Now, the start of the legislative session begins Monday, January 8th. The State of the State address that the governor will give will be January the 10th, and then the governor's budget recommendations will be transmitted to the legislature on January 11th. Last week, the Board of Regents approved non-budgetary legislative proposals that board office staff will be pursuing in the upcoming session that will have system-wide benefits, including clarifying the AOK one-time stipend that was included at the end of the last session. To make all AOK students eligible for a $500 stipend for books and materials. Technically, the reason for this proposal is that AOK students pursuing a GED are unintentionally ineligible as the statute is currently written, just a simple technical correction that will seek to be fixed. Another proposal is unifying service scholarship penalties for a single interest rate across all KBOR scholarships that do hold a service component. There are about a dozen. This is simply moving from a federal moving interest rate to a single 5% interest rate for administration purposes. And then one of those service scholarships is the Nursing Service Scholarship Program. Another proposal we have is to amend the Nursing Service Scholarship Program to remove a sponsorship requirement that students must first seek in order to be awarded this financial tool. We have heard countless anecdotes that this sponsorship for nursing students to go out and basically negotiate with an employer 2 years down the line and commit after graduation is a significant burden. So looking to grow the workforce of nursing students in our state. And then another item here is seeking additional options for third-party investments into State 529 college savings account, again, with an eye on enhancing college affordability that was just mentioned earlier. Now, I do want to pivot into a quick federal update here as it relates to higher education and post-secondary education with the FAFSA redesign. This is from the FAFSA Simplification Act from 2021, and then the subsequent FAFSA Simplification Act Technical Corrections Act that was needed in the spring of 2022 to simplify the FAFSA process, take the questions down and make it a little bit easier, but there have been some bumps along the process with some delays. Now, the FAFSA application will open to students and their parents or guardians on December 31st, and institutions really won't be able to download student FAFSA results until late January or early February, with some caveats. Institutions will need time to load this data, which will be in a new format and test systems before they can really begin generating financial aid offers. That could mean that some student award letters would come out later than usual and give students a little less time to decide whether or not they can afford college this upcoming academic year. And these are some considerations that have been shared with members of Congress. In addition, as part of the FAFSA redesign, families will have to include assets that are not truly liquid to calculate what a family is expected to contribute for their child's college. Like the family farm or the family business in Kansas, those are oftentimes one and the same. This change is expected to disadvantage rural students. So, for example, for a family farm in a year of high input costs, low production, or low crop cash receipts, families can be asset rich on paper with working land and capital, but extremely cash poor due to the market circumstances. Lastly, for federal funding from November's laddered continuing resolution that Congress passed, did avoid a federal shutdown at the time. But the way that continuing resolution and the laddered approach split deadlines among the federal appropriations bills, there are 12 that fund the federal government, with certain aspects of federal operations to lapse January 19th, with the remainder of those federal appropriation bills that include the Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education Appropriations Bill, again, with overseeing the rollout of the FAFSA process. That funding authority only continues through February 2nd, 2024, pending another bipartisan deal to fund the government in Washington, D.C. through the next fiscal year. So with that, I'll conclude my update and we'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Director York. Appreciate it. Next, I'd like to recognize Senior Project Director Tim Peterson to provide us with an update on micro internships. Senior Project Director Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Humphrey. It's time for what's become an annual update on the micro internship program, and I'll try to load a short file here if the host will allow me to do that. If not, I'll just kind of step you through a couple of things that are dealt with in the issue paper. So I'm not able to share my screen here apparently. No.
Okay. Tim, I've released the share. I'm going to try to get access for you now.
Thanks.
Let's see if you can do that, Tim.
Looks like we can. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if I can make this work. Try to go back to the beginning here. And I'm going to shrink my video here. So as I say, this has become a bit of an annual update, and I believe in recycling. So you may see a few slides that you saw last year. The micro internship program is also related to the building a future strategic plan, specifically Pillar 2, the business pillar, and specifically the talent pipeline special initiatives. I don't know if any of you have ever felt like this, but seems like anywhere I go, I'm still seeing help needed or hiring now signs. And so maybe you've had this problem as well. Do you need some help right now? But more importantly, will your talent pipeline enable you to build a better future?
Messed up with your business. Not enough time or staff to get things done? The Kansas Micro Internships Program offers on-demand help year-round for business, HR, IT, marketing, research, or other special projects at no cost for your first 2 projects without any paperwork. The 32 Kansas public colleges and universities provide the help you need today and tomorrow. For more details on how to register, please visit kansasmicrointerns.com.
I hope that you were able to hear that. That's the 30-second video that Cox Media created for us, I think a little bit over a year ago. A 15-second version of that is currently airing on the 2 PBS stations, KTW here in Topeka and KPTS in Wichita this month and next month, around some selected programs like the Nightly News Hour, Sunflower Journeys, and some other specific programs. As you all probably know, this was initiated in February of 2021 with a company called Parker Dewey out of Chicago. They began offering micro internships nationally in 2015, so they've had a lot of experience. We were funded initially by the Kansas Department of Commerce and the DeBruce Foundation in Kansas City, total of $35,000. So it was not a lot of money, but without it, we would not be here today. This program doesn't really cost the institutions anything. And we currently have, as of the 1st of December, almost 2,000 students spread across the 32 institutions who have registered for the program, 266 Kansas employers, and that includes entrepreneurs, small businesses, companies as large as Spirit Aerosystems in Wichita. And we're somewhat unique in that we are still the only state-sponsored micro internship program in the country. So why are these important? Well, according to the 2022 NACE study or survey of students, NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, students who have done an internship get 30% more job offers than those with unpaid internships and 70% more job offers than those with no internships. And we certainly want to see all of our graduates and students be gainfully employed, not only when they finish, but, to have some opportunities while they're still in school. According to the KU Institute for Policy and Social Research, which presented their report in September to the board, in the next now 6 years, Kansas anticipates adding another 54,000 jobs that will require degrees. 67% will require a bachelor's degree, 14% will require a post-secondary non-degree award. And I believe the report indicated about 5% associate degrees. So there's still going to be a real need and demand for talent. You've seen this probably before. I think this dates back to even 2022, if not last year or this year. These are just some of the major corporations that have decided to locate in Kansas. Panasonic, of course, being the largest in DeSoto. They're still under construction. And as you all know, Department of Commerce and the Kelly administration has been very aggressive in trying to bring new businesses to the state. It's also important to recognize that according to LinkedIn, 98% of people surveyed would actually like to work remotely at least some of the time for the rest of their careers, kind of like we're doing today. And 94% of employers surveyed reported that productivity was the same or higher than it had been before COVID pandemic. Obviously, not all careers, particularly CTE related careers, are going to be done remote, but there are many others, even related to career technical education programs that can be in terms of like back office kinds of things. You've heard this or seen this before. What are these? Well, they're short paid professional projects that college students can complete really any time of year for a wide array of employers, including business finance, communications, education, human resources, IT, marketing, and social research, and good old research. We'll talk maybe about that in just a minute. Again, this is open to all Kansas businesses, nonprofits, entrepreneurs. Really takes you about 5 minutes to register if you're an employer. Absolutely no paperwork. The employer sets the project hours or estimates it. Assumes that maybe it's a 25-hour project. Students get paid 90% of that. We ask them to cost that out at $20 per hour. So a 25-hour project would be $500, and student would get $450 of that once the project is done, even though it might take the student more or less time than that to actually complete it. And these are available about 95% remotely, and they're available year-round. In fact, we've seen a pretty big uptick in projects just this month because a lot of students, as they finish finals and are getting ready for the break, they like to earn a few extra bucks in between the fall and spring, for example. And of course, the first two projects to Kansas employers up to $500 each are free. Again, thanks to the funding from not only Department of Commerce in DeBruce, but the Strata Education Foundation in Indianapolis. Speaking of the DeBruce Foundation, I think I've mentioned this before. One of the things we ask students to do when they register is to complete the foundation's free career assessment tool called the Agile Work Profiler. And it basically just helps them identify their agilities, which is kind of like, what do you like to do and what do you think you do well? It's an online 15-minute kind of survey. They get the results immediately. And we ask them to post those results to their profile in Parker Dewey when they create an account, but they don't have to. You've probably heard me talk about Sophie before. She's getting ready to graduate next spring. She's a business marketing major at K-State. If we had a poster child for a micro internship program, it would certainly be Sophie. She's done at least 16 projects since she started, which happened to be in between her fall and spring semester of her sophomore year. She did enough projects the spring of her sophomore year to pay for not all, but a good chunk of her study abroad to Europe that summer. And she continues to do projects. In fact, I think she's done about a dozen others for out-of-state employers because the platform does allow students to apply for these projects across the country. But we're really trying to keep them in Kansas, obviously. One of our more recent employers was Janet McRae, the Miami County Economic Development Director. Some of you may know Janet. She is the immediate past president of the Kansas Alliance of Economic Development, or Kansas Economic Development Alliance. And as indicated here in this quote, she was a little skeptical about doing the program, thought it was just going to be another task to manage, but she started with a simple project. Actually, she had an Outlook file with 6,000 contacts in it, and she just didn't have anyone who could help her clean that up, didn't know how to do it, so she posted the project, and a student actually from Fort Hays State helped her out, got it done in a few days, and it was, as she said, a game changer. It would have taken her a lot more time than what it took Nicole to clean that up. Gave her some tips too about how to avoid that in the future. And I might just mention, Janet posted her second free project here recently, which was actually completed by Sophie from K-State, which essentially was to do some research about how AI, or artificial intelligence, can benefit small businesses. So Janet's already taken advantage of the program so far. A couple of employer examples. I think I may have shown these to you before. Zenotech is a drug research testing company with 200 employees in Kansas City, Kansas. Brown is a accounting firm with 11 sites around the state, 260 employees. Again, one of the first projects Sophie did was helping post some profiles of their new CPAs for the Great Bend location. River City Engineering in Lawrence. They do process engineering, 10 employees. They've used the program. I already mentioned Miami County. Spirit Aero Systems has done a couple of projects. We're talking with them about maybe some supply chain management micro interns. Gordon Parks Museum in Fort Scott, Ford County HR Department in Dodge City had a micro intern. And I believe that was a Fort Hays student that helped them update their employee handbook. Lots and lots of other examples that I could share with you. So moving forward into the next year, we're hoping to create 315 new micro internships through the Strata grant. It's a 2-year grant, $400,000 grant that we received this past year. Hutchinson, KCK, Neosho, and Seward Community Colleges are participating, along with Manhattan Area Tech and Washburn Tech. In 2024, we're going to try to emphasize a specific program, highlight that from each of the colleges. That list should be in your issue paper, mostly visual design, graphic arts, business administrative technology, those kinds of things. And what we really want to do is to engage the faculty that lead those programs with the micro internship projects, try to embed those if they can, or link them to those capstone courses that are also listed in your issue paper. We're going to try to increase the number of student ambassadors who actually kind of recruit other students. The ones that we've had to date have done a good job. And we also are hoping to reallocate some funds to maybe create some more closer relationships with some of the local Chamber of Commerce's. A number of those, like the Greater Topeka Partnership here in Topeka, actually have young leaders, young talent kinds of programs. And so we're thinking it would be really kind of nice if we could connect the students in these specific programs with some of those young talent programs in the that the local chambers do. I might just mention that Strata, when we visited with them back in October and suggested a couple of changes like this, they were more than happy to do that. They are incredibly flexible. And essentially, they said the role of their grant is to find solutions to help connect community college and technical college students with more employers. So they're willing to let us do pretty much anything to make that happen. And we're certainly going to try to do more marketing in the future. We will ask the legislature, the board will ask for $500,000 in fiscal 2025. You may recall that Governor Kelly actually asked for $4 million for this year, and we didn't get any of that, but I think we'll have a much better shot this year. We hope to increase our collaboration with the Kansas Department of Commerce. I had the opportunity to visit with Secretary Tolan back in September at the annual Kansas Economic Development Alliance Conference here in Topeka. And he asked, what they could do to help in the short term. And I said we could use some more marketing funds. And so about a month later, we had $25,000 more dollars to do that. So that video that you saw, or that screenshot of the guy holding his head, you may have seen that ad in the Kansas City Star or the Wichita Eagle or here in the Topeka paper, both last month and this month. And the video that I mentioned that's running on the 2 PBS stations this month and next month are also the result of that grant from the secretary. And we're just going to try out a billboard at 17th and Wanamaker here in Topeka during January. If that gains us some traction, we'll probably do more of those next year, along with the things we've been doing with Cox Media and LinkedIn, social media, Google search, newsletters, email campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. If there's a way to get the word out, we've probably done it. So that's pretty much it. If you haven't already registered and you need some help, you can go to kansasmicrointerns.com and register in 5 minutes. So let me stop with that and try to answer any questions you may have.
Tim, this is Ray Frederick. I'm curious, what has surprised you most about this program?
Well, a couple of things. The first of which is that most employers still don't have a clue what a micro internship is. Whenever I give a presentation and I ask them, hardly anybody raises their hands. When I ask them if they know about regular internships or if they did one when they were in college, just about every hand goes up. But the other thing that has been a surprise is I haven't checked our numbers recently, but I think they reflect what's happened with Parker Dewey nationally, and that is 80 to 85% of these projects are done by female students, by young women like Sophie that I mentioned, or Nicole from Fort Hays, or Danny at Neosho last year that did a great job for a Boulder Humboldt project. And I guess that shouldn't be a surprise because I saw a recent report where enrollment across higher ed across the country continues to gain more with females and not so much with males. And I'm not sure really the reason for that, but we need to get more guys involved.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, thank you, Senior Project Director Peterson. It's a great pitch. I'd like to next call on Associate Director Charmaine Chambers to provide us with information regarding the distribution of FY 2024 state safety funds. Associate Director Chambers.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Provided for you is a summary of the state safety fund programs for which KBOR has responsibility for making distributions. That's the commercial driver training and the motorcycle safety programs. So some of you may recall concerning CDL and the safety fund there, in 2013, there was actually a fourth TEA committee that was running. It was the Process Management Committee. And in 2013, that committee decided that the CDL safety funds that are available would be applicable for distribution to full CDL programs that are reported in KEDS and not just for test preparation individual courses. So each year I contact the institutions that are running an approved CDL training program that's in KEDS, and we request information about the students that completed their program in the previous year. Specifically, we want the date that the CDL was issued for their program completers. After we compile that total head count, we review the dollar amount available, and the fiscal year 24 available fees were a little over $53,000. So what you see for each institution is a percentage of the total available based on their head count. And we will be distributing all of the revenue received annually based on the student head count at each institution. And then for the motorcycle safety, actually, KBOR is provided a report from KSDE that includes the total head count and dollar amount for each institution each year. And then KBOR makes those distributions. This fund is specifically for motorcycle safety courses, which are under the purview and review of KSDE. $89,200 was available this year, and the distributions were based on the head count reported from each institution. This is an informational item. It's not necessary to take any action, but because this is a fund for which KBOR has the responsibility to make distributions, we like to present that to you, and I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Associate Director Chambers, and don't go away.
No.
We'd also like to ask you to share with us some K-tip highlights.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So for reference for some of our newer TEA members, KBOR is required by statute each year to produce the Kansas Training Information Program Report. We refer to it as KTIP, and we provide that to the legislature each year. This report includes data for all technical programs in the public two-year institutions in Kansas. And among other things, it includes graduates, those that are graduating and exiting post-secondary, so they're not continuing their education and becoming employed. And also, we look at the wages earned by those particular individuals. So fortunately for us, we have a very robust data research and planning team, and they created for us last year a portal. So now all of the KTIP data back to 2017 can be accessed in that portal. Anyone who hasn't seen it, or if you look at it and you have questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to walk through anything on the portal and help you work through that. So before you is an issue paper, and this is for the academic year 2022 KTIP. And I tried to create a reference for you in the first portion of the issue paper. So what you have is a list of all the various resources that we used in the reporting. We used several reports from the Kansas Department of Labor. And this year we also added Lightcast data to compare to our KTIP data. You've got a brief explanation on what data is used and how it's used by the Department of Labor to compile the high demand listing each year. And so this is the basis by which an occupation is ranked and then classified as high demand. When we look at the earnings of our graduates each academic year, I think it's a good reference point to always have some information about what wages look like at the statewide level. So you have a chart there at the bottom of that first page with what statewide average wages have looked like for the past 5 years. And then for the past several years, we've been providing this type of chart because we hope it's a useful way to think about our graduates that are becoming employed and moving on. So we compare this data about our system graduates in technical programs to kind of look at it from a supply and demand viewpoint. And I'll just also say we've often referred to KTIP as a sort of investment portfolio report, if you will, that sort of demonstrates the performance of system-wide technical programs that are receiving state investment. So in the chart itself, extra page down, we started with all the high demand occupations in the state. And that are specifically supported by 2-year or shorter technical programs. And we are comparing we've got the SOC code and the occupation name from the Kansas Department of Labor. And we're comparing that then on the right-hand side, just past the very bold center dark line, to the KTIP data that we have about our graduates for those occupations. So this data is sorted by the rank of the occupation on the 2023 high demand listing. This was posted by the Kansas Department of Labor here earlier this fall. Registered nursing being the highest demand occupation for 2023. And of course, it also was in 2022, if you remember. We've included occupations even where the typical education level needed for the occupation is noted as, no formal award or what have you. When we have a program that is being offered by at least one of our institutions that specifically supports the training for that occupation. So just to quickly kind of walk you through what you have here, I know it's a lot of data. So registered nursing being the example, you have your occupation code and the job title. I would also mention that the high demand, high wage occupations are a subset, of course, of the high demand occupations. And high wage is where the median wage is greater than the median wage for all occupations in Kansas. So for 2023, that was $41,870, and that is up $3,820 from the 22 wage survey, where our median wage for all occupations in Kansas was $38,050. We've included the typical education level needed for entry in the occupation as documented by the Department of Labor. Registered nursing is an interesting example, and it's a good one to walk through because for the occupation code itself, it's made the move to a bachelor's degree being the typical education necessary for entry. But because a very significant number of jobs being posted annually still require an associate degree, we still include that here. Now, I also added Lightcast data for the first time this year. This provides a snapshot of job postings in Kansas between November of 2022 to November of 2023. And then I also included the the entry-level wage, the hourly entry-level wage, and highlighted in green is where the entry-level wage for the occupation is beating the statewide hourly entry wage, which is $12.68. So we have many occupations that are not technically high wage, but they are beating the average entry-level statewide wage. And then you have the annual wage as a salary. And then we provided the annual projected job openings from the 2022 through 2024 short-term occupational outlook that the Department of Labor provides. I've also got a gap listed between the 2-year outlook and our graduates that exited, because again, those are the students for the most part that we expect to see become employed because they're not pursuing additional education. And then we switch over to the KTIP data. So we have the number of institutions that are offering the program in the current academic year. We've also included with an asterisk those that are aligned programs for reference. We've included, of course, the award, the zip code, the number of declared majors. We also include the number of concentrators. Concentrators are students that have taken and passed at least 12 technical credit hours in the same program area over 3 years. So we provide that too because the Perkins 5 legislation requires that every state do regional local needs assessments. And we don't do that actually at the state level, we do that at the regional level. But if we were to do that at a system-wide state level, comparing the concentrators to job openings mimics what happens at the regional level. So this could be used in that way if necessary. And then we also provide, of course, our graduates that are exiting post-secondary, the number that were employed of that cohort, and then their average and median wages. I also highlighted it in green font if the wages for our graduates are beating the annual entry-level wage. So in 2023, there were a total of 226 total high demand occupations in Kansas. 71 of those are supported by 2-year technical program offerings. So that's over 31%. I would also just mention that there are 3 occupations that were not high demand last year. That happens to be sheet metal workers, insurance claims, and policy processing clerks and vet techs. And I tend to hang on to a lot of data, much to the disappointment sometimes of our IT staff. But looking back at the 2013 high demand occupation list, so 10 years ago, there are 3 occupations that were not high demand 10 years ago. Only 3. And those were occupational therapy assistants, phlebotomists, and chefs and head cooks. So as we look at this, just know that over a 10-year span, the high demand list for the state of Kansas has not adjusted over much. And then I would just leave you with one additional thing. I know that, again, that this is a lot of data, but part of my job function, obviously, is to try to make sure that data is available for all of you. Hopefully, it's accessible, and most importantly, hopefully, it's useful, and it's answering questions that the authority has as you go about your work. We provided the data this way in an attempt to try to anticipate potential questions and also bring together other data sets that we think hopefully provide a bigger, more well-rounded picture. But I often hear comments about, data is not recent enough or it's not current enough to be useful. So that's also why I included the Lightcast data this year. I definitely am not suggesting that throwing more data into the chart would be helpful, but I would obviously stand for questions, but I would really like to know what we want to know that isn't here, or that we don't have, that we haven't presented in some way, maybe in another format. This approach is not etched in stone. So if this approach is not useful, then we need to rethink how we're presenting the KTIP data and the results to the authority. So I would now stand for any questions or comments.
Sharman, this is Natalie Clark, and thank you. This is very helpful. I appreciate all of your work. I, if possible, would like to schedule an appointment with you to look at the portal to help us on our pathway to program alignment. And I think this is very helpful. I appreciate the Lightcast data. I do have one question just to clarify. The computer support specialist, is that an aligned program?
Yes, it is. I may have missed an asterisk on that one.
Well, we've been looking at that, and I just wanted to clarify that piece. But I would welcome, following the meeting, setting up a time to dive into it a little more deeply. But thank you. This is very helpful.
Absolutely.
Sharman, this is Deb McCulka, and I would echo what Natalie said. This is very helpful, that Perkins 5-year or whatever year it is reassessment. That's we've been looking at this information, and it's very helpful, and I think it's very helpful for the curriculum committee because a lot of these for the TA curriculum committee when we make decisions, because for a lot of this, these are questions we ask, and especially as money is channeled toward high demand, high wage careers. This helps bring all the information into like one chart. So I kudos to developing it, and kudos to all those hard-working people that have made that possible and figured out how to do it, including yourself. Very good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sharman, I just have one question.
Yes.
Assuming that the drill down information is what you get through the portal. So if I look at a particular occupation and want to know which institutions are offering programs in that area and how those programs are performing. That is the kind of information that is now available electronically through this portal instead of the bound books that we used to get in the past.
Yes, ma'am, you're exactly right.
Good. Thank you.
And all of that data in the portal, it goes back to 2017. So all that same information at the institution level can be seen for whatever programs they were running during each academic year, all the way back to 2017 to provide that comparison.
Ms. Chambers, thank you. And I think previously you've presented in another setting for me on this kind of data, but seeing it in this way is not only helpful, but I think more useful than the past, because it allows me to look at particularly the wage piece, the average wage areas, which is where my attention is drawn most in terms of that. So with the portal, and I think you addressed it, one, it was the how far back can I look as we're looking at the change in our communities over time and what those demands are. And you've addressed that before I could ask that. The second question, I guess, if we're going into the portal or using this particular spreadsheet, is if I wanted to adjust the sheet and look at certain areas, if I wanted to for example, rank it by just the salaries or adjust it, just play with this spreadsheet just to look at certain categories, job categories, wage areas over a certain amount, under a certain amount. Is that possible to do either in the portal or just as we would do with a spreadsheet, when we just want to look at certain areas? And depending on who in the group that I'm speaking with on the secondary level, that would be helpful in terms of using this in a real friendly way. But does the portal allow me to do that?
Yes, it does. So I would just also clarify. So combining the different data sets from the Department of Labor and KTIP is a manual process that I go through. So everything on the left-hand side of center basically is from the Department of Labor, and that is not part of the KTIP portal. So for instance, if you said, I want to sort this instead of by the rank of high demand, I want to sort it by wage, by the Department of Labor data, I would be happy to share with you. This is an Excel spreadsheet. It's really the only way to try to put something like this together, to manually try to bring those data sets together. Conversely, on the KTIP side, on the right-hand side, all of this information is available in the KTIP portal at the program level and the individual institution level, and it is exportable to Excel. So let's say that you wanted to look just at registered nursing and all the individual institutions that run registered nursing. You could export it that way into Excel, and then you could sort it by any of these columns.
Now that's helpful. The amount of data you've provided, it is exceptional. And so for those in schools, as we're working, for example, with our nursing cohort through Stormont that's at PCALC, and it's great you use that as an example. When we're looking at programs that they want to continue on after their CNA and their phlebotomy license, that level of manipulation is great. And it's nice to know that is through the portal, but there are some other pieces that I can just get through you as in the past. Thank you again. This is excellent and extremely helpful.
Great, thank you.
Any more questions for Associate Director Chambers? Okay, thank you very much. And that pretty much wraps up our agenda for today. So I'd like to remind everyone that our next regularly scheduled TEA meeting is an in-person meeting at the KBOR offices on January 25th of next year, 2024 at 10 a.m. So if there's no further business, I would like to wish all of you a happy holiday, safe and happy. And I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming, and hope to see you all on January 25th. Thank you.
Keith.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Keith.
Bye-bye now.
Happy holidays, everybody.